Okay. Welcome back to the fourth episode of the CEO Journey. It's just hosted by me today. Unfortunately, Joe cannot be here. So, Joe, if you're watching this, I'm really disappointed in you. But we've got a special one for you today. We've got a second guest on the pod. He goes by the name of Clarke. Jake, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Excited to be here.
Good. Yeah, no, lovely stuff. This man has achieved a lot at a really young age, so he's a real inspiration to me, and I definitely look up to him. So, Jake, for the audience who might not know you out there, could you just briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I guess 30-second pitch. Most well known for the content I post on YouTube. That all started from doing really well over like exams. So I got like all nines and then all A stars. Started making content on that and how I kind of balance that with social life. That seemed to resonate well with people. That brought me to the audience I have now, which is about 35,000 subscribers. And then from that, I then went into mechanical engineering at Bath University. Realized it wasn't for me, but I'd interned at a startup the summer before. So I called up the boss. I was like, hey, do you have any work that I can do? He said, yeah, we're actually looking for a full-time head of growth. So I dropped out of university to become full-time head of growth at this startup called Manor. And that's kind of where we're at the moment, working full-time as head of growth whilst also running that YouTube channel in the background. Bit of a
Lovely stuff, mate. Lovely stuff. So, I like to start this podcast, right at the beginning. So, Jake, you've said that it started at school, but how did you actually develop and find your passion for creating content?
Yeah, it's a great one. Also, stop me if I talk too fast because I have a tendency to go quite fast. But yeah, I mean, always from like a young age, I loved making just like stupid videos. Like it starts as any kid does, making like Black Ops montages or like bottle flip videos, just like random things like that were trending at the time. I just had a real passion for making that content. But obviously those videos, they never really go anywhere. There's no real value behind it. It's just for a bit of a laugh. But then as I came out of my exams, this was the point where I started to actually like work really hard. It was over year 11. I was like, I actually want to make something of these results. Let me just go all in. Let's see where it goes. So there's no like real expectation for it to yield anything. Then I came out of my exams, got those great results, and then everyone was kind of asking, well, how did you do that whilst also kind of like going out? I had a 4-year relationship at the time that was going very well. And they were all asking like, how do you balance this? So I decided, oh, why don't I turn my love for like video making and video creation into something valuable and actually put out exactly how I like did all of this myself and my thoughts on how to revise, how to balance it all, etc. So it kind of turns that childhood passion for video creation combined with the value of like doing well over those exams into the channel that I then created. Yeah, that's kind of how I got into it all. To answer the question.
Oh, no, that's really interesting. So, when you found this passion for creating content,
yeah,
how did you actually get started making videos? Did you invest in proper camera quality and audio, etc., or did you just freestyle it with your phone and start putting videos out there and then?
Yeah, it was very, very much freestyle. So my first ever video, which is actually the most successful one on my channel, which is how I got all nines at GCSE, it's just hit 300,000 views. I actually filmed that with the webcam of my like Surface Book laptop. So it was awful quality. Not very good video, but because there was the value behind it, it did really well. So like I think if anyone's like trying to get into content creation, you don't need the fancy gear. You don't need all of the big cameras, the big mics, etc. Obviously it helps over time, but I think there is something about that like authenticity that people resonate really well with. So yeah, just like if you think about it, just go into it. You don't need to invest in all the fancy equipment.
So yeah, so obviously you started this channel whilst in school. How was it perceived by your peers?
Yeah, another great question. I think that's always something that's like a limiting factor for a lot of people. Like a lot of people want to get into creation or whatever, but they're scared of like the public perception of it. And obviously I was terrified as well. But once you posted that first video, you realize people don't really care. Like no one really cares what you're doing. So do it for yourself. I really like doing it. I put the content out there. Obviously there's some people that are like, oh, it's cringe, he's a YouTuber or whatever. But then some of your boys might back you, or like a few close friends, and that little bit of backing is all you need. And obviously it's like with anything, once it starts to build up some level of success, people are like, oh, fair enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, those early stages are the hardest because there's nothing to show for it. You're just putting content out there, and it can be quite hard when you think people are seeing it negatively. No one actually cares, but you think people are seeing it negatively. And it's only once you've got a certain level of success with it that you could be like, actually, no, it was worth all the effort I put in. Like, yeah, it paid off, if that makes sense. But yeah, it was quite.
Yeah, no, I guess the reason why I asked that was because, like, if I think about, you know, my school experience and environment, if I started something as bold as creating a platform and putting content out there with nothing to show for it, as you said, like I guess there would have been a lot of negative energy around it, and that can be really off-putting. So it's great to see that, you know, I guess it's natural for you to get that negative perception, but you've got to just get it out there and, you know, go with your gut, push the content out there, and, you know, it can really take you places like it has done with you. So that's really inspiring to see. And on that, do you receive many negative comments or hate when you put videos out there currently or before? And if you do, how do you overcome that negative energy?
Yeah, sure. I think the good thing about my channel is it's very value oriented. So there aren't too many negative comments because people like genuinely find it helpful. And if you're offering value, they don't tend to shit on you as much. But obviously you get the occasional like hate comment, like for example, on all my exam videos, there's just loads of comments being like, oh, he's a neek, he's this, whatever. But then it's disproportionately more like positive. So you just look at those people and it's like, if you're putting the time in to comment something like that, like, are you the type of person that I actually care about as a person as their opinion? And it's like, no, like it's the supportive people that I actually want in my life and that build me up. So like, why should I entertain the opinions of those people that are giving me the negativity? Because at the end of the day, I think for the most part, it does come from a place of insecurity usually. It's like, oh, they're trying to do something. Let's just shit on them because I'm not confident in myself, or I'm not doing anything for myself, if that makes sense.
No, I completely agree. Like when you're in your own lane and you're making things happen, it's much easier for people to just hate on you and spread shit about you. But you've just got to really do your best to put that aside, haven't you?
Yeah, for sure.
So on that, and another question would be, you know, how many opportunities has creating a channel with 34k subscribers created you?
Yeah. So honestly, the decision to like start my YouTube channel, especially back in like over GCSEs, best decision I ever made, like hands down. So like I think the best way to do it is to describe the person I was before starting my channel and then describe the person after. So like before I started my channel and before I started creating content, very unsure of myself, very socially awkward, like didn't really have a clue what I was aiming for and just felt like I'm a little bit lost. As soon as I started to put like content out there, I noticed my confidence would start to increase because I'm actually like, I am overcoming that fear of putting myself out there. And then that translates into in-person like interactions with people because I'm like, oh, I put this digital stuff out for millions of people. One interaction with someone in real life is like so much easier. So my confidence just then started to skyrocket. And obviously that translates into a lot of things. So it meant that I was better at like networking with people when I went out to like parties or to like social events and like work events. I was there trying to make as many like mates as possible, just going and speaking to as many people as possible, finding all of these different stories. And then that really helped to build up my network a little bit. And then obviously as the YouTube channel starts to grow, you have things like sponsorship. So that comes on the monetary side. You actually start earning from the channel. That's very nice because it shows you that like it's possible. And that gave me like a spark to go with like other businesses and to take more risks in my life. Then the biggest thing was actually when one sponsor reached out, they're called Unirise. I got speaking to the founder and I actually had a manager at the time. He pulled me after this call and was like, mate, your manager is terrible. Fire him. Let me do the same job for like a week to show you what it's like to have like a good manager. we got on like amazingly well, resonated like well as people. He became like a massive mentor and influence in my life. And from that point, he started introducing me to all of his network and opened me up to like the startup space. And then that just changed like my perspective, because before I was very much in the corporate's the only way to go. Corporate medicine, like investment banking, etc. You got to go into those degrees or like those jobs to make money. He introduced me to all of these people, and it was one call with his friend called Alia. That then meant 3 months down the line, when the company Alia was working for needed like social media help, she thought of that conversation I had with her 3 months ago. She called me, put me on a call with the CEO, James Lowe, and then he offered me an internship on that spot in that interview for man at the company I'm currently working for. And then that conversation and that internship meant that when I went to university and realized that the degree wasn't what I wanted to do, I had like another route, and my eyes were open to another route. So contrasting the two people I was before and after I started a YouTube channel, very insecure, very shy, not really sure what he wants to do, not aware of all of these opportunities. Versus after, I actually think I'm very confident, much more like aware of myself and aware of opportunities out there, and feeling like I'm working on a vision that will sustain me in the long term. So like a much more at peace with myself, if that makes sense. And
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And you know, you touched on the fact that you were really shy before creating videos and getting on the platform. And I'm guessing you probably weren't comfortable with cameras being on you and yourself being out there for everyone to see. And I guess that just shows that, because people might look at your success thus far, like your 34K subscribers, and now you're at a leading position at a thriving tech startup, and they might think, this person is out of the ordinary. How can I be like him? He must be some sort of superhuman, but really you're not. You're just a normal lad who's a product of putting himself out there, not giving a shit about other people's perceptions, and stepping out of your comfort zone and taking really strong action. So that's just great to see. Would you say, this is quite an interesting question that I'd like to ask you, is there a knack for creating great content and creating content that really does succeed?
Oh, it's a great question. Something I ask myself a lot. I think there are certain like formulas that you can use to play to the algorithm that can increase your chances of your content being like clicked on, then being watched through, and as a result, the algorithm pushing it. But I think for me, what it has come down to, and what I'm realizing now, is it needs to be very value oriented. So like if you're putting out content that genuinely offers value for people out there, it hits a demographic that's quite dense. So for me, obviously, it was a student body. It was how you can do well in exams. Like there's a lot of organic search for that. If you can hit those things, so value and a dense demographic, that's all you need to really succeed. Like the editing and stuff isn't actually a huge factor. Like you might have the best edited video in the world, but if you're not targeting a dense audience and you're not offering much value, people aren't really going to watch it. Unless it's like, I know, like the crazy headlines. I don't know if you've heard of Airac, or like obviously Mr. Beast is a great example of this. They're not offering too much value, but they've just got the crazy headlines. But that's the thing with those ones, is anyone can make that content. So it's very saturated and a lot of people are trying to do it. Whereas the valuable stuff, it comes from like your own experience and the things you've learned. So if you feel like you can offer value to people, then make content on that. If that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that definitely does. So how much planning and time does it take to create a video?
It's dependent on the format of the video. So for the ones that are done like best on the channel, not too long at all, like the ones on exams, etc. I sit down for like an hour, I script out all of the points I'd want to cover. I sit in front of a camera for like 20 minutes, just film the video like 2 or 3 times until I was happy with it. Sit down on my little laptop, fast out the edit. Edit would probably take like 3 to 4 hours, and then I'd post the video 6 hours, like net time. When it comes to the vlogs and the stuff I started seeing at university, they take a hell of a lot longer because it's obviously filming my whole day. So I'd film my whole day. I'd have to have an idea in my head as I was filming of how I want it to turn out. And then I basically sit down at the weekend with this blank canvas and just all of this raw footage. There's no like script, there's nothing to follow. I just have to like let my creative flow go. And those videos I'd edit from like 8 a.m. Sunday morning to like 4 a.m. Monday morning.
Jeez.
And it took a hell of a long time, but those are my favorite videos to watch because they're not necessarily adding as much value, but it's really conveying that university life and is a great memory bank to like look back on. But yeah, that became quite unsustainable, especially with like work, etc., which is one of the reasons I inevitably decided to drop out. But yeah, like
no. So like, I follow your content on YouTube, and you know, I look at it and think like this is incredible. Like, it's just such good quality. All the edits are amazing, and I think that just reflects your hard work, doesn't it? That goes into it, and those late nights. But aside from that, so you did the internship. Was it the summer before you came to uni?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so you did that internship, and then you came to Bath Uni to do you did mechanical engineering, didn't you?
That's one.
And that's obviously a really, really tough degree, and I can imagine takes a lot of hours. So how did you find balancing your YouTube at the time and your studies?
Yeah, it was quite hard to balance, but it's all dependent on priorities. Like at the end of the day, everything you do is going to take sacrificing a little bit of something else. For the most part, a lot of people, that's just sacrificing like more time lying in bed in the mornings or like just lazing around doing nothing, which is calm. But obviously the mechanical engineering degree is very intensive. So as it started, I basically film on like the Monday or Tuesday, focus on uni work Monday to Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday would be all of like the editing, all of the YouTube stuff. And at the time I was also working for two like part-time roles as well. So like the weekends I had to sacrifice things like doing extra past papers for uni, going over the homework. I'd have to fit all of that into the Monday to Friday and then use the weekends to dedicate to YouTube and all of the things outside of it. Wasn't the greatest balance in the world, and given that mechanical engineering is quite hard, it did take it like cause a hit on my grades a little bit. I think I pulled out in the first mocks before I dropped out with like 69.7%, which is 0.3% off a first. So like we still just scraped it, but it was a grind. And especially when you're going out as well, it felt like you were constantly working and like didn't have rest. But at the same time, it was a good balance. Like working during the day, go out at night, weekends just grinding away on the edits. Like it was enjoyable, but it did mean that I was burning out over time and causing the greatest of it all. Does that answer?
Yeah, no, 100%. So you obviously took the decision to drop out of uni and focus on this lead role 100% on YouTube. How difficult was the decision to actually drop out of uni? Because like it's such a bold move to take, and like everyone perceives, university as well, not everyone, but you know what I mean. Like there's a lot of family pressures, and society deems it to be almost like the be all and end all. So how difficult was it to take that step to drop out of university and follow your passion?
Yeah, it was a very difficult decision. And it was something that was playing on my mind for a long time. Like quite honestly, from the moment I got to university, I wasn't sure whether it was for me, but I did want the university experience. I think in terms of the social pressures, that is probably the biggest concern for almost everyone that's thinking about dropping out of university. Like it is very tough because, like you said, there is that societal definition of success, which is go down university, get a great job, come out of it. Like it's a very safe option. And if you've got good grades, like there's no reason not to pursue that route. But for me, I think because I'd kind of proved to the people around me that I could do things on my own terms. Like when I started the YouTube channel, when I got the good grades, I'd kind of proven that I would make something of whatever I do. And that was a good ground to drop out. So like when I was mentioning it to friends and family, they were kind of like, yeah, you know what, we trust that you've got your best interest in mind. We trust you're going to make a success of whatever you go into. So just go for it. And like, I'm eternally grateful for my parents for being that supportive and just like trusting that I'll try to make the best of my situation. Like, if my parents weren't supportive, I don't think I would have dropped out, and it would have crushed me deep down. So I'm like eternally grateful for that. On like a personal level, massive risk, obviously. Like, I'm going into an engineering degree at a good university. It's going to be stable. It's going to give me decent income. But there was something in me that's like, I don't want to do this. Like, I want to be working for myself. I want to be working on something bigger. And that was just eating me up so much that I felt like I had to drop out. Because at the end of the day, there's a good quote. I can't remember who this is by, but it's like, what was the quote? So yeah, it's like a minute here. It was along the lines of the opportunity cost of staying, like, you're sacrificing more opportunity cost staying on something that you don't like than dropping out and taking that risk. So it's like, people perceive the decision to drop out as a huge risk, but actually staying on the path that you don't like is an even bigger risk. So I was like, okay, at that point, let me go. Let me work on something I love. If it doesn't work out, I can always go back to university in a couple of years, but I just want to give this a shot.
Man, that's a powerful quote, to be fair. It's a good quote. And like, it's so good to see how you've actually followed your passion, and it's really paying off now, isn't it? And you're doing something that you actually love. And there's no point in, like, putting all that time and effort into something where you just think, what am I getting out of this? So yeah, it's just great to see. And now you're head of growth at Manor, is it? So
yeah, that's one.
Like, what does Manor do? What is it?
So this is the nature of startups: is your vision changes a lot of the time, and essentially you have this initial pain point that you assume is correct with like the world or the demographic you're trying to target. You create a product that tries to solve that pain point for that audience, and then you either validate it and the startup is a huge success, whoopee, like great, or you realize that the pain point is slightly invalid and then you pivot and tweak from there. We're kind of at a stage now where we realize the initial pain point we were trying to solve is slightly invalid, so we're trying to pivot and find like the true pain point and then create the product around that. So it is a bit of like an uncertain time at the moment. And I was going to actually touch on this. Like, it is not all like sunshine, rainbows, etc. There is a lot of hard work. There is a lot of stress with the uncertainty, and a lot of things you need to consider. Like, your job doesn't feel stable. It's a constant fight for like, we need to succeed. We've got limited runway. These are the things we can do. These are things that haven't worked in the past, and you're constantly trying to iterate towards something that is successful. And that can be quite stressful. But at the moment, my role has actually shifted slightly from head of growth to more like managing product. So, or like on the product team. And that's basically, we take the insights from consumers and we think, how can we build products that will actually fit this audience? And that's kind of the state we're in at the moment. So, nature of startups, roles are very flexible. Like, you can do basically everything as long as you're in the team, and very uncertain, but like a lot to do day to day. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I'm guessing you have a lot of responsibility at the startup. You're a young lad. So you're 19 years old, aren't you, Jake?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, so 19-year-old, and you've got all that responsibility, and I'm guessing a lot of pressure follows from that. How do you deal with the pressure and instability that you feel from actually working at a startup? Because obviously, we all know that startups can either be really successful or just be a complete disaster. So how do you cope with that pressure?
Yeah, the pressure is an interesting one. I think what you've got to realize is, in startups, there's lots of stuff that needs to be done, and you're constantly learning on the job. So most of the time, you won't actually have the training or the expertise to be able to tackle the things they want you to do. You just go away, you try to learn it, and then you crack on. And a lot of people will fail at that stumbling block there, where it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Why are you asking me to do this? But in startups, you just got to accept that if they're asking you to do something, go figure it out, make the best of it, and put in the work. Because in a startup, it's not like defined roles so much. It's especially early stage startup in a small team. It's just like you are like a family working on a mission together. You're all trying to make it work. So you pick up the slack wherever necessary. You do all of the little jobs that need to be done, and you figure out how to do it as you go. So I think with the pressure side, it's just having the confidence and the understanding that you're not necessarily less experienced or less good at the job you're doing than anyone else in the team, but they're asking you to do it, so you just got to figure it out. So yeah, the pressure side is not having that preconception that I need to know everything before I tackle it.
And I guess like, I ask this to a lot of entrepreneurs and people in similar positions to you. And I would say, is enjoying the process and the journey of, grinding on this thing that potentially could be something that will hold massive legacy and be a great reward to yourself. Is enjoying the process and the journey vital for the success and your overall drive to succeed in the business?
Yeah, 100%. Like you have to know why you're doing things. And that's something I need to continuously remind myself, because when I lose like the why, it's very hard to stay motivated. And you go through phases of like, yeah, why am I actually doing this? Why aren't I just going down the stable route? But you need to remind yourself, like for me, it's being able to support my family. Like I really want to do good things for my family. And all of my friends, like not have to worry about the finances and get to a point where I'm working on something that's offering value to people, and it's meaning that I can offer value and support like people around me. And that's like my driver. So I need to continuously remind myself of that. But like in terms of the process side of things, there's obviously going to be things that take a lot more effort and that you don't like. But for the most part, you've got to find a love for what you do. So for me with the content creation, overall, I absolutely love it. Like I love taking a blank canvas and creating and encapsulating the feelings and emotions I've had in that experience and putting that into a video. Obviously the nitty gritty, like I know SEO on YouTube or like making some of the thumbnails, I don't enjoy that process as much, but because I enjoy the overall side of it, like it's a sacrifice I make. So you don't have to enjoy everything about what you do, but you have to enjoy like the overall, you have to want to get up and do it each day. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. Jake, just I'll edit this out from the podcast, but I think the recording is going to come to a close. So I think we're best to obviously you'll get this recording and then we can start up another one and then take that recording and I can compile them together.
Yeah, sounds like a shout. I'll quickly do that.
Right, lovely stuff.
No worries, bro. Where were we again?
So I can edit parts out. So I'll just crack on. So you were talking about your enjoying the process, enjoying the journey. So I'll get back into it. So yeah, Jake. So obviously you've talked about how important it is that you actually enjoy the process and enjoy the journey whilst doing these things. And one thing that you touched on, which was finding your why, and I think that's really key. And I think that's so important, because without a why, I guess you have no drive or motivation to do these things. So you talked about supporting your family and being able to do that now and for the future. And yeah, I just think that's so crucial. So I just want to understand something. So I think because obviously I follow your content. You promised, was it 500,000 app downloads for the Mana, was it? Jeez, that's a big task, mate. Big task. How did that go?
So with the basically when I came into Mana, I was very limited in my perspective on startups. So for me, I thought, okay, products we've got right now, this is the final form product. In that case, I'm going to market the hell out of it. I'm going to run this like everywhere. We're going to get those downloads. It's going to be great. But what I didn't realize was with startups, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, when you have that pain point and you've got the product that solves the pain point, or like the theoretical pain point, it can either be validated or invalidated. If it was validated, then great. We would have been able to run all of the marketing. We would have gone crazy and then hopefully achieve that goal. But because we invalidated the pain point and realized the product we had didn't solve the original problem, it meant that there was no point like trying to market that because it doesn't offer like value. So now we kind of shifted from that 500k download aim to finding something that fits, like achieves product market fit. Hence my role shifted from like the head of growth role into more like product strategist. So yeah, that's something that it was great because looking from an objective point, when I posted that, it gained a lot of traction. I think on LinkedIn, it got like 200,000 views, attracted the attention of some like major investors. So it was net positive, but obviously it sucks because I put out this claim and then realized that that claim isn't going to be possible. And then that's something that's like weighed on me mentally quite a lot. But yeah, it's just about like, I guess it's another like lesson for me, right? Is even though we promised that, knowing that you can shift away from those big goals, big ideas, and it's very much more down to like we're more process oriented over goal oriented. I came in with a big goal, realized actually it's not about the goal, it's about the process, how you work as a team, how you get to like the end state rather than just taking an arbitrary number and working towards it.
No, yeah, 100%. And so actually last week, it's interesting you say that because last week we had Louis Bollard on the podcast, and he is an entrepreneur as well, and he's trying to build this site almost like the Airbnb for sports. And he said that one of the most crucial things to do in entrepreneurship is the ability to pivot and adapt. How would you perceive that as well? Would you say it's incredibly important to be able to understand when something's not right? For example, having that shift from that goal of 500,000 app downloads to now finding a process and gaining that product market fit. How would you perceive the importance of being adaptable?
Yeah, it's a crucial trait. It's not one that you need like going into it. It's one that you need while you're doing it. So you don't have to have it to begin with, but you need to learn to be more versatile and be able to adapt to these situations. Because at the end, like things are going to change. You're going to like, okay, let me restart there. Typically, when you've sunk a lot of time and energy into something, you have an attachment to that product and you really want it to work. So you'll ignore all of the little issues and things with it for the sake of it working. I think what is a better idea is to continuously step back and take an objective view of it without all of your bias, without looking at all of the time and energy you sunk into it. If you came across this product now and started from the point you're at, would you continue working on what you're working on? Or have you seen evidence to suggest it might not work? And then in which case, should you decide to pivot? A lot of people will stick with the products they're creating, regardless of whether it's proving to work or proving to be valuable to people. And that obviously results in a lot of failure. You have to be able to look at it and be like, is this working? If not, let's shift into something else. I think that's something that people need to learn.
Yeah, no, 100%. On the point of failure, you know, what's been the biggest mistake, whether it be through your YouTube channel or even at the startup, and how do you deal with failure? Because it's very demoralizing, can be very demoralizing, but I think there's a way to really look at it and turn it into something positive and a massive learning curve. So yeah, how do you deal with failure, and what would you say is your biggest mistake that you've made?
Yeah, that's a very difficult question because like mentally, you touched on it there, but I like to not see things as like big failures. I like to have like a very positive outlook on things. So it's more just like there's a graph, which is like the typical path of people. You assume entrepreneurship is going to be a straight line, a highway, but it's actually like a loop. It's a roller coaster. It's a madness. And I'm just learning to be content with like all of those pulls, all those shortcomings, and just like building up from there, knowing it's part of the process. So I guess the biggest loop or the biggest like alteration in the path I'm on is probably with my content. I assumed dropping out of university, the audience would still be there, but I forget that actually they follow for all of the study content or the educational content. And that saw like a massive hit with like viewer retention, viewership, and all of the key metrics that define like success of a channel. So that was quite like demotivating. And I guess it still is to a certain extent with the YouTube channel. And I'm trying to figure out what is the niche that keeps all of the existing audience engaged and also offers growth. Like I mentioned at the start, you need to be able to offer value to a dense demographic. That was amazing with the student body, but now that I'm not kind of targeting those people so much, or like not making content that's as relatable, it's harder to engage that audience. So for me now, I'm just trying to figure out how I can like revive it basically. Like don't get me wrong, there's still a decent viewership there, but it feels like very stagnant now. It doesn't feel like I'm on the same growth trajectory as I was before. And yeah, I'm trying to remember it's about the process. As long as I keep putting content out there, I'll eventually find it, and trying to stay motivated regardless of whether the numbers have dropped.
Have you managed to find that niche yet? Or is it something you're still actively working on?
I think it's definitely something I'm still actively working on and how it fits with my life. Because for me, I always saw the YouTube channel as like supplementary to my life and was like almost like a document of everything. And recently it's felt more like, oh, the content is basically just I'm making content for the sake of content. So I need to establish like how the channel can continue to document my life. When it's got such a lack of structure now, like education is very structured, very defined. This whole startup space and everything else out of that is very unstructured and undefined. So it's hard to have like continuity throughout a series, for example. So yeah, I'm still figuring that out at the moment. Give me like 3 or 4 months, I'll get back to you with a great answer. But right now, I'm still in the uncertainty of it.
How key would you say consistency is, especially when you're going through this change in, as you said, like at the moment there's not much structure. So obviously you've got your channel, but you're trying to find that new niche, and then obviously in the startup everything's very unpredictable and there's a whole load of uncertainty. How with all these things, how key would you say keeping consistent is?
I guess it depends on where you're defining the consistency there. Like if you mean consistency with the content and the work, I think it is important, but I think what's more important are like your day-to-day habits, your day-to-day principles. So like getting up on time, getting out of bed straight away, like all of the things that you assume people would do, like most often they don't actually do. Like people will wake up at like, I don't know, 10, 11, be on their phone, going through TikTok for like 2 hours or whatever. I think it's more important to be consistent with your daily actions. So for me, it's like I need to be sticking to a good workout routine. I need to be getting up at a decent time, taking time for myself and setting my body and like mind up mentally and physically. Because once I've got those in check, it's very easy to have motivation and drive to go and figure out all of your problems, go and like put in the work. If you don't have the mental and physical in check, your motivation just starts to like diminish and it's very hard to get back into things. So you need to do things that keep the mind and body in check and build up momentum throughout your day. So like any little thing that's positive, whether it's getting out of bed straight away, whether it's working out in the day, that all helps to build momentum that allows you to like go off and work. Like if I wake up and I scroll through TikTok, I can't be bothered to do any work. If I go up, go to the gym, I'm so pumped, I'm ready to crack on with the day. Like I want to be doing stuff. It's about building that momentum. So consistency with the daily habits, yeah.
So would you say that all ties down to having a solid routine in place?
Yeah, I'd say so. Solid routine and solid principles, like knowing what you can and can't sacrifice.
Yeah, because I guess like if you start the day off bad, then you're just gonna have a bad day, and it just plays with your mental, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jake, were you gonna say anything else?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna mention on that. Like obviously I paint a certain picture online, but there are still days where like I'll wake up, I won't have the routine sorted, and like I'm not cracking on. But it's just about having more days where you are productive than not, and like really actively trying to have better days. So
yeah, no, that's 100%. And you talked about like especially keeping your physical and mental health in check. And I know that you're a big gym activist, like you love the gym, don't you? And
Of course.
it's something that you've really embedded into your life. So how much has, working out and going to the gym changed your life?
Yeah, I think so. That's actually the second biggest decision I've made in my life. First was starting the YouTube channel. Forever thankful for that. But the gym was actually the precursor to that. The gym I started around 2017. I was very, very skinny, very insecure. As soon as I went to the gym, I started to see some level of progress, and that was very motivating. That helped to step up my confidence. Like just the confidence you have in yourself, and knowing that. And it's weird, even if you don't make much progress, even if you're worse than everyone else, just the thought that you can improve and that in a year, in 2 years, you're going to be better, that gives you more confidence. So that really helps to build up the confidence, but also show that I could actually influence my life and make a difference in my own life. And I guess that translates into other things, right? For example, entrepreneurship, the ability to impact your own trajectory as opposed to just having it predefined, and knowing that you can impact your future has helped me to venture into other things like the YouTube or making the decision to drop out and not just stick to the defined path. Yeah. But at the end of the day, fitness is always good. I'm sure it's affected my cognitive ability and my physical performance. So it's never going to hurt.
No, yeah, no, I can completely relate on that subject as well. I love going to the gym, and I try and do it every day. I know that's probably not optimal for myself, but it's a way for me to, I guess, channel all the stresses I have on a personal and a work basis, and really let go of them. And like you said, it's been a massive confidence boost for myself. I would say my proper training started when I went to uni. And before I came to uni, I was just slightly, filled out and quite a rounded person, to put it politely. And seeing, little improvements just massively boosts your confidence and shows you that it's really possible to change the way you look. And also, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I feel like it's quite controversial to say, but a lot of people do perceive you from how you look and how you carry yourself. And I think the gym can be, or any fitness outlet can be a way for you to improve the way you come across and the way you look to someone. Because I do think that it does make a difference. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I completely agree. If you carry yourself with an element of confidence and just carry yourself well, it's very well perceived, and people associate those traits of confidence and being able to support you, etc., with the way you with the way you're perceived. So I agree completely.
No, 100%. And it's quite it might be a difficult question for you to answer, Jake, but just on a very general level, what would you say is your biggest regret?
Wow. I think, my view on relationships as they are now, I wish I'd had that view earlier. When I was, for example, over latter half of GCSE, early A levels, I was very much work mode. Friendships come and go. I don't have to put much energy into them. I don't have to, I was obviously very social, but I didn't actively seek strong connections with the people around me. It was very much an individual level. I was working on myself. Recently, I've seen a real value in strong connections with people, not the surface level. You go out, you see loads of people, you say hi every now and then, but there's nothing deeper. I really value that one-to-one deep interaction, deep conversation, and getting to know that person on a personal level, because I think just having those strong relationships in your life does make you a happier, more mentally stable person. And I wish I'd had that over GCSE and A level, because although I was like working on myself and doing a lot of things for myself that was ultimately led to some success down the line, it was quite like it felt quite like socially isolating. And the only real person that I had there for me at the time, and the only person I'd invested like a lot of time and effort into the relationship, was my girlfriend at the time. I wish I'd invested more time with my boys and really got to know them more on a personal level, as opposed to just like random crap. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's hard to do
Yeah,
at a
no,
young
100%.
age.
And would you say you've now strengthened that relationship with your boys and the
Yeah.
close people around you?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I've gone back. I've started to have all of these like great chats with the boys back home,
Yeah.
with the people at university, and it's just a nicer feeling. Because, like, say you're thrown into a social situation with all these people around you, if you don't have that deep
Mm.
connection with people, you feel a bit like, what am I doing? I've just got to talk to random people and just survive this interaction. If you've got like a deep connection with someone on the other side of the
Yeah.
table, it's like, like we're tight. I don't have to worry. Like, I can just enjoy my time here. Like, I know the people
Yeah.
around me I'm very close with. They're very supportive, etc. And that's like a great feeling.
And would you say they've been like a key factor in really creating the person you are today, and all the success you've achieved thus far?
As in the relationships around me.
Yeah, as in not having those boys who will always have your back, and just having that really strong circle.
I think it is definitely influenced like where I am today. There are times where like you have conflicting views on success, etc. They can be quite poor, but
Mm.
I think success comes down to in like you as an individual. So like that
Yeah.
individualistic view that I had over GCSE and A level was very good for success. But when it comes to like life as a whole and like this experience that we're living right now, it's nothing when you don't have those strong relationships. So I think when it comes to success, you don't actually particularly need those like deep relationships with everyone around you. Maybe you need like one or two guys that are really driven working with you. Uh, but when it comes to like
Mm.
enjoying life as a whole and really making the most of this experience, that's where the social side comes in. So like creating success, very
Yeah.
individualistic level, couple of close mates, enjoying life as a whole, those deep connections and those deep relationships with the people around you.
Yeah, no, and like, because I guess a lot of people can get stuck in the mentality of, when they're on the road and on the path to achieving something great, they get stuck in the mentality that, it's just work, 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 and grinding.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of things can get pushed to the side. And I think the thing that can get pushed to the side, such as relationships, are the key factors that really build you up as a person. And they're always going to be there. You're always going to have your close friends there. When you go for a rough time, they're always going to be the ones who's going to have your back.
Yeah.
And would you say it's like really crucial to find that balance between your work and that social aspect and spending time with your boys and all that sort of jazz?
I think it's dependent on what you want. Like if you're very tight with the boys at home to begin with, then yeah, I think it's pretty crucial. Like if you found good people that you resonate with, uh, have that balance, go out, enjoy your time with them. If you don't think you've really found your people yet, then it's not the end of the world if you don't prioritize those social. Maybe you've got like one or two close friends. That's more than enough. Like focus on yourself, put in the work. Because once you've like if you're enjoying the process and the work you're putting in, you'll naturally attract people that resonate like better with you. Like for example, through YouTube, I've met a lot of people that I actually probably share better values with than my boys at home, but I've got all the experience with the boys at home. So like, don't think that what am I trying to say in like a concise form? I think it's more it's not essential, but it does add to the experience that you're living. So don't think of it as like, I have to make time for social. Like I have to be and like 2 hours a day going and
Yeah.
socializing. As long as you've got a couple of close friends that you like regularly check up with, you have a strong relationship with that you can go to if you need like support, that's fine. It's more then how much of this experience you want, like how much do you want to make the most of this time and this moment whilst working, and how much of the social do you want to sacrifice? Does that make some sense? I don't know what your
Yeah.
thoughts are on that.
No, that actually makes total sense, and it ties in with something I've listened to, because I've listened to something which says like, your true friends, they're always going to support you. So like if you have to turn around to them and then they say to you like, look, Jake, like I've got this, like, do you want to go out tonight or something like that? And you say no, look, I'm working, I've got this to do, and you've prioritized something else over that, then they're not going to get aggy at you for doing that.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you really like understand who your true people are. And the people who are completely true to you and value you so much are the people who will put your growth ahead of other things and understand the sacrifice that need to be made, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Oh,
Wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. And I guess that's quite a good place to like almost bring this podcast to an end. But there's a key question that I really want to ask you, and it's, where do you see yourself in the next five years?
Next 5 years. It's a tricky question. I'm actually like going through this process myself, on an intrinsic level, like really trying to figure out what it is that I want from like life and the next 5-10 years. Like where do I actually want to be? And then hopefully upon finding that, I'll realize like my like true drivers, in addition to the ones of like I want to be able to support my family and friends. I'd like to think that in 5 years I will have a strong like mental backing. Like I'll be very confident in my own abilities with whatever aspect I want to do, and I'm doing something that I genuinely love day to day. So a few like potential routes that I'm coming and arguing about at the moment is on the more like passion side. Love music, absolutely love it. So if I could get to a point where my income supports the ability to go off and make music and not have to worry about like that being sustainable, that'd be awesome. So that's one thing. Obviously, fitness, I love it. So I want to be continually working out. In terms of like the monetary side, there's a few things. Either starting like very small businesses and building up income streams so that most of the income is very like investment oriented. So I don't know if you've heard of, I think Sebastian Kiorni or something.
Yeah, no, I've come across it.
Yeah, absolute legend. Like that sort of life where your investments are supporting you, so you don't have to worry about like the financial side of things. It's very much down to what is the vision I want to be working on, who are the people I want to be helping, what do I enjoy spending my time doing, and going all in with that. So I like to think in 10 years especially, I'll have built up enough like financial stability to be able to truly like make an impact on the things I want to have an impact on, and like do things on a day-to-day that I love doing without having to worry about the financials. It's quite a vague answer, but yeah.
No, that's generally incredible. And like it's incredible to see like how you have such a mature like mentality and outlook on life at such a young age, and like it's not like you have a clear vision of where you want to be. Like you don't like you obviously want to explore loads of different opportunities, but what you're trying to do now is create the freedom for you to be able to do that in the next 5 to 10 years, isn't it? And it's just it's amazing to see, to be honest. And I hope that everything that you're doing now pays off and continues to pay off, to allow you to do those things. And it'd be great to see where you're at, in the next 5 to 10 years. I'm sure massive things are coming. So yeah, no, I completely support all of it. The final question, just one final question, is what would be the number one key advice you'd give to your younger self, or someone who's really wanting to start out in whether it be content creation or just entrepreneurship as a whole?
Yeah, I think like it's very generic advice. But getting started, like taking that first step. Once the first step's down, everything else is easiest. It's a very big leap at the start. Like, for example, posting my first video, massive leap. But once I put it out there, everything else became easier. Like you overcome that like fear of starting. I mean, I struggle with this day to day as well. Like there's those little things I want to be doing and I just put off. I don't take that first step. As soon as I take the first step with anything, it gets so much easier. So yeah, one piece of advice is take that first step. Second, get your sleep, get your eating, get your like fitness in check, because everything else stems from that. And yeah, like just try to work on your mentality, whether that's through the sleeping, through the eating, through like gratitude, through meditating, through reading. Just do things to try and forge your mentality, and give yourself a very like driven perspective. For me, that was through books like How to Invent and Influence People, Rich Dad Poor Dad, things like that. Those books are like very influential. And then like the content I was consuming helps to like forge the mindset I'm in now. So there's a lot to unpack there. But I guess, yeah, there's kind of three key things. Get started, get your like routine in check, and then consume content that offers a mindset you want to have. Because the more, even if you don't have that mindset to begin with, the more you consume that content, whether that's like podcasts, whether that's YouTube videos, the more influences your mindset. So yeah, those are the three things I think I recommend.
Absolutely. I completely agree with all three of those points, and especially like the first one that you said, which was taking that first step and taking that action, because you'll agree with this, is that opportunities only come to you if you step out there and take that first step, as you said.
Yeah.
And once you do that, like you're never going to have any regrets. And like I'm sure, like if you like looked back now, and let's say you were young and you were wanting to start a YouTube channel, and you were like, no, like I can't do this, like I really don't want to. I'm sure you would have those regrets, and like looking where you're at now with your 44k subscribers, a lead position in a tech startup. That's all stemmed from that. So it's about, I guess, putting yourself out there, taking yourself into uncomfortable situations, and then when you do that, no matter whether things succeed or not, opportunities will be created. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree. And a mindset I've always had is like, yeah, like you said, the opportunities aren't just gonna randomly come to you. You need to like be stirring the pot and just doing anything you can, and anything you do is going to bring you more opportunities. So like I always tell my friends that they always have like these ideas of things to do. I just say to them, what are you doing at the moment? Most of the time it's nothing. Most of the time it's just like gaming, getting home from school, doing like nothing. So I'm like, do something, it will pay off. Like no matter what it is, just stirring that pot up will bring more opportunities to you. It's just about like, yeah, making waves and then hoping things that fall into place.
That's a great analogy, to be fair. But yeah, I think that's a great place to end the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on here, Jake, and it was really interesting for me, and I really enjoyed it. I hope you feel the same. Like obviously you've got your channel and everything, so I'll plug all the channel name and give a link to that in the description. Also your socials as well. If anyone wants to reach out to you, are you
happy to send any messages? Instagram DMs is probably the best one, so that's Jake Clarke 03. Best place to reach me.
I'll put that in the description. Is there anything else you want to add before we end this?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was so tired this morning, and just like not feeling very motivated for the day. But even just doing something and having this conversation, I'm so much more in the mindset to go and work. Again, it's that principle of just like do something, and it'll like help build momentum throughout the day. I think listening to this podcast, anyone there, go and do something now. Act on the momentum you've had from listening to the podcast. But it's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
That's a great tip of action for people to take. So yeah, obviously I'll put all your details in the description. Feel free to reach out to Jake. And yeah, as I said, thank you very much for hopping on this podcast. It's been
No
really
worries, mate.
interesting, and we give you, all the best luck for the future. And I'm sure you're definitely one to follow and watch. So yeah, no. For everyone listening, make sure to stay tuned for the next episode. We post these podcasts every Wednesday. You can listen to them on Spotify and YouTube. So make sure, if you like this type of content, to support it, and we'll keep bringing it. So yeah, that's a round off for this one. Thank you everyone for listening, and
Awesome.
thank you to Jake. Yeah, we'll be back with the next episode.
Awesome. Been a pleasure. Cheers, Tom.
Lovely.
Lovely. So